Saros is the spiritual successor to Returnal, but Housemarque isn't just sitting on their hands making another Returnal clone with a different setting. They're constantly pushing the boundaries of what they can do. This is my number one most anticipated game, and here are 10 reasons why I think this is going to be a masterpiece that absolutely deserves your attention. Let's get into it. Housemarque is shooting for bigger and better with Saros. It's a tall order, but based on many content creators who recently had a chance to play through the first 3 hours of the game, and recent in-depth interviews by VGC with the director of Saros, Gregory Loudon, and the art director Simone Silvestri, hopefully I'm saying those right, all fingers are pointing to this game exceeding our wildest expectations. Seriously though, check out these interviews. They are fantastic. I put the links to them in the description. Some creators have been so impressed with their hands-on time, they believe that Saros could even be a Game of the Year contender, and it's not even out yet. Housemarque is clearly taking their proven sci-fi, arcade, third-person shooter roguelike formula from Returnal and evolving the way to play in Saros. Returnal is still, in my opinion, the best game PlayStation 5 has to offer, and was unfortunately criminally underplayed. So Housemarque's looking to change that with Saros, to attract more gamers to their bullet hell madness. Housemarque is the developer for bullet hell games, and have perfected their craft over decades, going from 2D side-scrollers to top-down twin-stick shooters, and most recently third-person shooters. For those of you that don't know what bullet hell is, it's essentially a fast-paced combat where they'll be juking and jiving many brightly colored enemy projectile patterns, while taking on many enemies at one time. Housemarque has laid the foundation of their third-person bullet hell with Returnal. Saros has that same DNA as Returnal, but different aspects to the gameplay. Housemarque has coined Saros' gameplay as bullet ballet. You'll be literally dancing with bullets by dodging, dashing, and jumping to weave your way around enemy projectiles, while diving into others, absorbing them in an addictive gameplay loop. Housemarque backs up their bullet hell by having a gameplay-first perspective. They've stated this multiple times in their own videos and interviews with others. They strive to make their gameplay loop so damn good that it makes it difficult to put the controller down, getting you to come back again and again, giving that just one more run effect. Nailing down that focused gameplay loop is what matters most to Housemarque, just like what Saber Interactive did with Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. It gives you that feeling of the Xbox 360 and PS3 era of gaming, which I personally love. There aren't a million things in the game to do. There are just a couple things that are done incredibly well, and everything else in the game is just a bonus that's built around it. The art director had an awesome quote saying that Saros was a canvas, and they painted it with gameplay. He also said that it's hard to make art in a 10,000 mile per hour game, but they accomplished that feat too, making it even more rewarding to develop. They had done that same thing with Returnal. It was incredibly fast paced, getting your heart rate up and adrenaline pumping, and the controls were so tight and buttery smooth that the gameplay experience was almost perfect. So naturally, Housemarque said, "Hold my beer. We're going to push it further to make Saros' controls even more responsive." And that's the sentiment a lot of creators have noted about their 3 hours of playtime. The other part of the gameplay that has me stoked are the return of interesting weapons, ones that feel grounded, but alien at the same time. Returnal had some truly unique weapons, and that looks to make a return in Saros. I am a sucker for unique weapons, especially ones that look alien and have a distinct functionality. Many players' favorite gun in Returnal, myself included, was the Hollow Seeker. There were also the Dreadbound, Spitmaw Blaster, and many others that all felt different and changed the way you played. Then you had the alternate fire modes to boot. Housemarque has been a bit more tight-lipped on this part of Saros. We've seen some guns in some of the released gameplay, but I'm willing to bet that they are going to have some absolute bangers that'll quickly garner fan bases and generate conversations of which one's best. What has me even more excited is that melee is going to have an even more significant role. The melee in Returnal felt valuable and extremely good with the Atropian Blade that you unlocked, but it was very basic with only a single slash attack. From what I've seen for Saros, Housemarque's looking to expand on the melee. You can give enemies the beatdown with your mechanical-looking arm of the power suit, or use the Soltari shield to absorb enemy projectiles to charge up Carcosan power weapons and unleash devastating attacks. Just like the guns, it looks like you can get different power weapons to use, turning your arm and shield into a Swiss Army knife of sorts. Between the gun and melee options in this game, it looks like your offensive capabilities are getting cranked up to 11. Many of the gameplay aspects in Saros seem to encourage more offensive aggression. Where in Returnal you were avoiding enemy attacks, shooting them with guns, and possibly finishing them off with your melee slash or your blade, Saros looks like you can do that as well, but it also introduces the Soltari shield. This is a new defensive option, but it also converts into more offensive power, like I mentioned. This adapts the gameplay from avoidance, like an obstacle course, to aggression, like a battering ram, changing the dynamic completely. Or you can also use the shield for better positioning to get in closer melee proximity or to maximize close range weapon damage. This also allows you to pick up the new currency that drops from dead enemies called Lucenite, which doesn't stick around forever, so you gotta grab it with urgency. While the shield is a powerful new tool to use, it does have its limitations, like having enough power to keep your shield up, but the biggest thing being the corrupted bullets, the yellow ones, which when hit by them, you take damage and your max health is reduced. This is the perfect segue into what has seemed to create the most buzz around this game on the internet. The difficulty. Gamers seem to have a love or hate relationship with difficulty. Some gamers are difficulty purists, want an only insane difficulty, while others want the option to pick theirs. I tend to agree with the latter, especially now that I have a wife and kids and less time to play. But many gamers thought the difficulty in Returnal was too punishing, and the session to complete a run across multiple biomes took too long. The fact is, these are the main reasons Returnal didn't sell more than it did. Housemarque identified these as something they wanted to modify for Saros, to make the game more accessible. And I think Housemarque has found a great balance in the systems they created, and one that, most importantly, doesn't compromise the core premise of the game they wanted to make. The Housemarque art director said it himself that it's not really about challenge and defeat, but more about friction, of which there are two types in Saros. Agility, or the moment-to-moment gameplay with razor-tight encounters, which they wanted to retain from Returnal, but also the endurance test, the length of biomes, permanent progression, the ability to grow and learn, familiarize yourself with the game, and be able to experiment more as you get further into it. The systems that allowed them to accomplish this are the armor matrix and Carcosa modifiers. The Lucenite currency you get during a run can be spent in the armor matrix, which is basically a skill tree of permanent progression. Returnal didn't have this. The only real permanent progression it had was pretty unconventional, with things like the blade and grappling hook that you unlocked and got to keep, but you mostly started over from scratch. Carcosa modifiers are protections or buffs, and trials or debuffs that you can add to a run, but this system has to remain balanced. You can only add a limited number of protections, so you'll not be able to play on easy mode, but you can add as many trials as you like. This allows you to customize the type of friction you want with the game. This was a deliberate decision. It was Housemarque's goal not to dilute the challenge. It was to make every death feel valuable and not start from scratch each time. Housemarque says there's still a big edge to the gameplay, and you will die a lot. If you still completely disagree and think the game will be just too easy now, then just don't engage with the armor matrix. No one has said you have to put points into the skill tree or use any protections in the Carcosa modifiers. If you feel like you want the most insane difficulty this game has to offer, then don't upgrade the permanent progression and add every trial possible. Problem solved. Housemarque has also improved the average playtime sessions to average around 30 minutes per biome, and have the option to teleport back to the base of operations after completing each one. Returnal, on the other hand, could take hours, and when it first came out, you literally couldn't save midway through a run at all. I bought Returnal on day one, played it, and beat it all before they even updated the game with the suspend feature, which allowed you to suspend your play session and come back to your run later. Luckily, when I played Returnal, I was single. I absolutely loved every minute of it, but I had an issue with this. If you got invited to a friend's house, or maybe you had too much Taco Bell, and you needed to take that emergency trip to the bathroom, whatever, then you were in big trouble, my friend. I remember having to leave my PS5 on, hide in some corner, and hope I picked a safe enough spot that I wouldn't get killed. I have to say most times it didn't work out, so I welcome this change in Saros. It really sucked hearing my character die from the toilet with my gaming headset on. Why, do you ask? Did I have my headset on while I was in the bathroom? Well, let me tell you about Housemarque's fantastic game audio. The audio and haptic feedback capabilities of the PS5 system are completely underrated and underutilized features. Housemarque prioritizes these features in brilliant ways to give you amazing sensory feedback. The only developers I can think of that really use these to the fullest are Housemarque and Team Asobi, who made Astrobot and Astro's Playroom. Housemarque used the haptic feedback to help you feel the press of your trigger finger, and the DualSense was used for things like half trigger pulls to all-fire your weapons. Housemarque used precision and 3D audio in Returnal, so you could determine the direction of enemy movement and attacks, even if you had a blindfold on. They combined their amazing audio with haptic feedback of the controller to bring a true 4D experience. Kind of like some of those rides you can go on at Universal Studios or Disney, that uses those 3D effects, with other special effects like spraying water. The most vivid memory I have in Returnal of the audio and haptic feedback is when it rained. You could hear and feel every drop of rain. It was wild, like I was standing out in a storm with no umbrella. Housemarque has looked to improve the audio and haptic feedback for Saros. You probably won't get sprayed in the face with water. Well, who knows, maybe it'll happen. Maybe Housemarque is just that good. Having this 4D experience is really neat, but it doesn't do much for a game if you don't have a cool world to explore. Housemarque has created yet another bizarre, shape-shifting alien world with the planet Carcosa that's built entirely around the gameplay. The art director referred to the planet as radical escalation and said things can get weird. Housemarque draws upon cosmic horror, mysticism, folklore, and the history of civilization, then brings those things together in a unique, cohesive package. The art director wanted to find something grounded, then create contrast to break from reality into an alien world. The world reveals this ancient civilization of hate, greed, and corruption that begs you to discover its mysteries. And they made the deliberate decision with the orange color palette to convey this. Then you have the eclipse. The player can interact with an alien device to trigger this, changing the way the world looks, drowning it in orange and reddish hues, bringing that feeling of the additional chaos you'll encounter during the eclipse. Housemarque really wanted to create unique biomes, but make them feel like they're part of a connected world. Content creators got to experience the biome of the Shattered Rise, which was more wide open with mysterious structures and arches looming in the background to reach and explore, and the Ancient Depths, which had these very enclosed, suffocating spaces. These biomes end with unique bosses that blend with the biome it inhabits. The art director says they were going for gameplay and spectacle with the bosses, that they are the reward for the player getting to the end of the biome, labeling them as bombastic. The planet and its biomes are so ingrained into the DNA of Saros that they essentially become their own characters and transform with you on your growth journey through the game. They did the same thing with Returnal and integrated it with a mind-bending story. It's really rare to have a roguelike game with an engaging story. With a recurring gameplay loop, it's a difficult thing to do. But there are some examples that come to mind, like Hades and Hades 2, Absalom, and Lost in Random the Eternal Die, are just some games where I think they did a decent job integrating an actual story and character background arcs into a roguelike genre. With Returnal, the story was desolate and isolated. You felt alone trying to recover your memories, with constant tension and a lot of mysteries to uncover. For Saros, they changed it up with the main character, Arjun Devraj, a Soltari enforcer, and his supporting crew of Echelon 4. You now have a home base to speak to all the NPCs of your crew and delve into the notes and audio logs you discovered while exploring Carcosa. Taking the time to find these pieces to the overarching story rewards you for your curiosity and immerses you in the lore and important story plot points. The Housemarque art director stated, interacting with your crew will take you through a narrative and psychological journey, and exploring Carcosa will give you the geographical journey to bring it all together in a cohesive story. Housemarque did mention they're catering to both players who want to be engrossed in the story, and also those who just prefer to blast baddies. The story elements are totally optional. If it's interesting, I personally love games with a great story, and I'm confident that Housemarque can pull it off in Saros again, as well or better than they did in Returnal. For those on PC, unfortunately Saros won't be coming to Steam like Returnal did. That sucks, especially with the rising console prices. But if you've been on the fence about picking up a PS5, Saros and Returnal might just be that reason you've been looking forward to finally pull the trigger. We are less than a month away with an April 30th release date, and I genuinely cannot wait to jump in on day one. I'll be covering Saros when it comes out, but if you're looking for some more hype, you can check out my reaction video of the gameplay reveal trailer. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.